What is reactive abuse, and how does this relate to family scapegoating abuse? That's the subscriber question I'll be answering in today's episode of Beyond Family Scapegoating Abuse, so stick around. Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Rebecca Mandeville, licensed psychotherapist, certified clinical trauma professional, and author of Rejected, Shamed, and Blamed: Help and Hope for Adults in the Family Scapegoat Role. And today I wanted to talk about something known as reactive abuse. And I want to start off first by saying I don't like the term reactive abuse, but if you were to do a Google search after this video, that's the term that's used. If you want to learn more about it, that's the term we're stuck with for now. I myself would call this reactive survival defense mechanisms. And I'll explain more about that in a minute. But reactive abuse is when someone who is a victim of abuse, and for the purposes of today's talk, we'll say family scapegoating abuse, and that person who is the recipient of abusive behaviors in their family reacts. And they react in a manner that, if an outside person were to be a fly on the wall observing, would make it look like they are the abuser. When someone's been subjected to abuse over a period of time, sometimes a very long period of time, no matter what type of abuse we're talking about, there's a point where someone can just break. And they can then engage in behaviors that to any objective person are going to look like abusive behaviors. These can include yelling, slamming doors, throwing things, punching, hitting, cussing at someone, calling someone names. This is because the fight or flight trauma responses, the adrenaline running through the body, once you hit your limit, these behaviors can spontaneously occur. If the abused person can't get away, or perhaps they're trauma bonded to their abuser and they don't even realize getting away is an option, and this can actually happen in families, it doesn't always have to be in a romantic relationship, then there may be this type of explosion, so to speak, where those trauma responses kick in. Reactive abuse can really work against the victim because the abuser, and often it will be a narcissist that's associated with reactive abuse, the abuser can then point the finger and say, look at how they treat me. They're crazy, or they're the angry one. They're messed up. I'm their victim. Reactive abuse is a close relative of the term Dr. Jennifer Freyd created, the acronym DARVO: deny, attack, reverse, victim, and offender. Through reactive abuse, the offender, the person committing the abusive acts, can look like the victim because the person on the receiving end of the abuse finally loses it. Reactive abuse is similar to DARVO. It's a form of blame shifting. The perpetrator of the abuse can shame and blame the person who's the actual victim. I can give you a quick example of reactive abuse from when I ran family programs in the drug alcohol treatment centers. You know, I would have family members come in, spouses, adult children, parents, and they would just lose it sometimes. They would be yelling at the addicted loved one. They would be shouting, maybe calling names. But I understood it. I understood it because I was working with them privately, and I understood the psycho-emotional torture that they'd been through for several years. But if an outsider was looking at what was going on in the group, it would look like the spouse or the one yelling was the abuser. No one knew the history. No one knew what that family member had been through. Reactive abuse is a form of gaslighting in the end. It's a way of further distorting and manipulating reality, and that's something narcissists are really, really good at. And if the scapegoated family member is very vulnerable, they may be open and actually believe this idea that they're the problem or they're the crazy one, especially, again, if it's trauma bonding going on with a parent, a strong family power holder. The abuser will minimize their abusive behaviors, and they'll really amp up and magnify the frankly understandable behaviors of the victim, who may have finally been pushed to the edge and lost control of themselves. And they'll probably never hear the end of it. They will probably have it brought to their attention many a time by the actual abuser. Oh, well, you punched me that day. Oh, you yelled at me. You called me those names. Well, you slammed the door on me. Or you hung up on me. There's no context. There's no context. Look at society doesn't understand scapegoating as it is. Family scapegoating isn't even properly identified as a form of abuse, which is why I've dedicated my entire career to researching on it and writing books and articles and trying to get the message out. This is not just some family role like the clown and the caretaker. This is being scapegoated is a form of systemic bullying and systemic abuse. So how do you know if you are a victim of reactive abuse? Well, some things to notice are feeling perhaps that rush of adrenaline. You might feel like you're going into the fight or flight response. You may notice a sense of confusion or dissociation, including after the event. And one of the most confusing parts could be that suddenly the person who's been narcissistically abusing you or scapegoating you somehow is magically your victim. You might notice the abuser documenting, or I've seen cases where they want to videotape it or record it, turn it into some big thing. They may push you so that you have an outburst in a public setting. And sometimes it might not go so far as reactive abuse, so to speak, but you may get pushed and poked and prodded and provoked until you're feeling crazy and you're hysterically sobbing on the floor. I've had clients who are very, very successful, competent people from all walks of life. It doesn't matter their age. They can be 40s, 50s, 60s. It can be younger. Stable people, confident people in most ways, but they can be in their family of origin home for all of 5 or 10 minutes, and they're a mess. They are either yelling or screaming or crying within the first few hours of their visit. So you'll want to look closely at what's going on there. I've had to gently warn some of my clients, especially those who hold licenses, who work in the health field and are practicing doctors or therapists or what have you, because there's things going on with family members, including siblings. These are people in their, again, 40s, 50s, 60s. They're being assaulted. They're being physically assaulted in some cases by family members, siblings especially. And, you get pushed to a point, you might fight back. Well, if the police come, you better hope they believe you, or your license may be gone pretty darn quick. This is serious stuff. And a related question a subscriber had is does this make me an abuser? What's called reactive abuse. A lot of people don't even know that term, but if you've experienced reactive abuse, does this make you an abuser? And the answer is a clear no. It does not make you an abuser or the abuser. What's actually going on is you are trying to survive. It is tied into all of the brain chemistry, nervous system reactions, responses that go along with complex trauma. If you are caught in this pattern of reactive abuse, you'll know it's reactive abuse because you don't behave this way with anyone else except when you're around the people abusing you. The problem is you may not understand you're being abused. What's actually happening is you're being manipulated into losing your cool, so to speak, so that you look like the abusive one and you're being set up by your abuser. I hope you found this information on reactive abuse helpful, and the way we can help people gain more awareness is to share what we're learning, and perhaps then we can have more resources, more places for people to go who are victims of these forms of invisible abuse. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week. Take care.